Just starting off in his profession as a park ranger in a national park, Ethan was full of life and energy. From a young age on, his passion for the outdoors and animals was clear, and he had always dreamed of working in this field. The prospect of new experiences and chances to help the park's animals was something that Ethan eagerly anticipated every day. Among the many animals that called Ethan's national park home were the renowned African lions. Ethan felt an extra sense of duty to ensure the safety of the about 30 lions housed in the park. As soon as it was light, Ethan got in his Jeep and began to patrol the park's perimeter. As it drew closer to the horizon, the sun began to rise, casting a soft pink and orange glow across the sky. A delightful aroma of blossoming plants permeated the crisp, chilly air. One of the lion pride's habitats was a rocky area, and Ethan's path went right through it. The lion's perfect home consisted of these boulders, which provided cover, rest spaces in the shade, and excellent hunting spots. As Ethan approached the rocks, he noticed a pride of juvenile lions playing close to the cliff's edge. The ranger couldn't help but feel a mix of joy and concern as he watched their joyful antics. He was well aware of the potential dangers that this area posed, particularly to creatures lacking expertise. Ethan witnessed the rocks start to fall under the weight of the playful lions all of a sudden. Upon realizing the imminent threat, the one ranger's heart began to speed. Eventually, he wished the mother lions would warn the cubs not to go too close to the brink. When one of the more mature lions saw the threat, he or she got to their feet and started roaring, scaring the younger lions away from the precipice. But the carefree kids weren't paying attention to the warning because they were too busy having fun. When the adult lion saw that the cubs weren't responding to his calls, he made a bold approach towards them. As a result of his powerful roar, the playful lions began to back away from the precipice. Sadly, by that point, it was too late. The tipped-over edge of the precipice was finally triggered by the heavy adult lion's movement. One of the juvenile lions was killed when a huge rock fragment shattered and took him with it. As the lion plummeted from the precipice, Ethan beheld in terror. Fortunately, the animal used its claws to cling to a rocky ledge, although it was still in a very dangerous condition. The lion's grip would be severely limited without help. In a flash, Ethan grabbed his radio and dialed for backup. He outlined the problem and asked for help right away. If the ranger didn't move swiftly, the lion would plummet to the cliffs below. Having made up his mind, Ethan wasted no time getting his vehicle ready to head for the edge. He had to scare off the other lions so the rescue mission could go without incident. Ethan planned to drive the predators away by making a lot of noise and swerving the Jeep. He was relieved when the strategy paid off. As they started to back down, the pride cleared the area surrounding the edge. After the final lion vanished from sight, Ethan leaped off the car and dashed towards the brink of the precipice. The ranger glanced over the edge and saw the lion clinging tenaciously to the rock. With its claws slipping on the uneven stone, the animal emitted a series of painful sounds. The lion's strength was going to run out in a matter of minutes, and Ethan knew it. Ethan retrieved sturdy ropes from the trunk and hurried back to the Jeep. As he planned the best way to knot the lion so he could pull it up, he began to unroll them. Here came the long-awaited sound of approaching Jeeps, just as Ethan had hoped. His co-workers had shown up to lend a hand. The Rangers wasted no time acting on Ethan's orders and dove right in. They worked together to make a network of ropes, and they started bringing one end down to the lion that was stuck. The riskiest element of the rescue mission, tying the lion with ropes, was taken on by Ethan, who had initiated it. Ethan started to drop the rope as he cautiously approached the cliff's edge. Apologies for the disruption. To kick off the story, I would greatly appreciate it if you could hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. We place a high value on it. I am deeply grateful. No aggressive behavior was observed from the lion, suggesting that it understood that humans were attempting to aid it. The animal's amber eyes reflected both dread and optimism. Ethan yoked the rope around the lion's torso with much difficulty. Despite the animal's natural reluctance to risk falling over the abyss, the Rangers managed to calm it down by speaking to it in a soothing voice. He finished tying the rope around the lion, and to his amazement, it seemed to relax. After Ethan made sure the lion was attached firmly, he signaled to the other rangers to begin raising. It was no easy feat. The enormous adult lion's weight and the precarious cliffside location made the task much more challenging. With a great deal of effort, the rangers lifted the lion to its feet. Realizing that their combined efforts would determine the lion's fate, Ethan offered words of encouragement to both his co-workers and the beast. It was a constant uphill battle, but they never gave up. The lion's face finally emerged over the ledge after what seemed like an eternity. After a couple more tugs, the beast was firmly planted on the ground. As it lay on the grass, panting loudly, the lion was fatigued but alive. In order to give the animal more room, the rangers withdrew, all but Ethan. For some reason, the young man felt compelled to remain near the animal. He drew near the lion and bowed low, staring into its eyes. There appeared to be a brief exchange of comprehension between the man and the beast at that same moment. Instead of being aggressive, the lion gazed at Ethan with an expression that was almost thankful. The ranger cautiously started to untie the lion, and the lion remained perfectly still throughout. The lion got to its feet very slowly as the last rope was cut. With a final glance at Ethan, it let out a low growl that sounded more like a purr, before retiring to its pride. As they marveled at the man-animal interaction, the rangers saw this scene with wonder. Everything went back to normal in the park after this occurrence. Thoughts of the rescued lion plagued Ethan as he went about his duties. Despite his hopes, he understood the odds were against him getting another close look. Months ticked by. Now it's monsoon season. During this time, rangers were understandably nervous. Wild animals in the park may be in grave danger if the torrential downpour caused flooding and landslides. While on patrol one morning, Ethan saw a particularly heavy downpour. The windscreen was being pelted by streams of water, and visibility was low due to the Jeep's wipers failing to keep pace. Carefully checking the area for distressed animals, the ranger moved at a leisurely pace. Out of nowhere, Ethan saw a huge, downed tree in the distance. He got out of the Jeep and braved the torrential downpour to investigate. With the hood pulled up over his head, the ranger made his way towards the tree, his mind racing with the possibility that many tiny creatures had lost their homes in its downfall. The increasing roar didn't jump out at Ethan since he was lost in thinking. It had already happened by the time he realized it. The ranger turned around to see a huge mound of dirt and rubble racing at him. On his path was a massive landslip. Ethan tried to dash back to the Jeep in a hurry, but he soon realized he wouldn't make it. There was no place to hide except behind the downed tree. The ranger sprinted over, climbing as high as he could while firmly grasping the trunk with both hands and feet. The mudslide finally reached Ethan a few moments later. An overwhelming power was attempting to wrench him from the tree, and he could feel it. With all his strength, the ranger gripped the trunk, hoping to endure the relentless assault of the weather. After the initial surge had passed, Ethan saw that he was engulfed in a dense covering of silt and rubble. Thankfully, a tiny air sac had developed around his face, enabling him to inhale. Still, the ranger was well aware of how precarious his position remained. Ethan struggled to get up, but he was practically paralyzed. His movements were limited by the thick layer of dirt. The ranger made an effort to maintain composure, aware that losing control would exacerbate the situation. Ethan started to get worried as time went on. He was aware that his co-workers would be occupied with cleaning up the park following the landslip. In what amount of time would someone notice his disappearance and begin searching for him? Suddenly, Ethan perceived a subtle but audible sound emanating from above him. When he first felt the weight of the earth's wet quiet bearing down on him, he hardly noticed the slightest rustling sound. Hearing something, he peered through a small opening in the rubble. Also, for an instant, he felt as though he caught a glimpse of a splotchy of sandy fur darting by. Even as his chest tightened, he pushed the idea that it was all in his head. That was making him feel this way aside. What gives a lion the right to be here, particularly in these perilous circumstances? Nevertheless, the sound persisted. Rather, it became increasingly audible and unyielding. Ethan tried to decipher what was going on above him by straining his ears. Subsequently, he detected the movement of a substantial object on the muddy ground. just above him. His body tightened and he repressed his breath. Was he going to be buried entirely by another landslip? As he prepared himself for the worst, a spark of panic swept over his thoughts. However, a surprising turn of events ensued. Ethan felt the immense burden on his body gradually ease, instead of being swallowed whole by additional rubble. It seemed like the boulders and dirt were being pried away from him, releasing him from his earthen shackle. Numerous possibilities flooded his thoughts. Is it possible that a rescue group or an animal happened upon his whereabouts by complete chance? Suddenly, his ears were pierced by a profound, echoing noise. A strong and imposing roar resounded through the air as the storm raged on. Fear shot through Ethan's body. There was no mistaking it. One lion. Despite this, the noise was not aggressive or menacing. Rather, it was of a different nature. Shortly after, he discerned human voices, emerging from the background of the rain. His body washed over with relief. The Rangers showed up. They had him in their sights. With all the power he could muster, Ethan attempted to yell out, but his voice amounted to a raspy whisper. It appeared, however, that they were fully aware of where to seek. Maybe something or someone had guided them to him. The time seemed to stretch on forever. Then, out of nowhere, a flash of light broke through the muck and dust, briefly blinding him. He felt a surge of vitality as he inhaled fresh air. As if he had been born again, he gasped and savored the fresh air. Pulling him free from his shackle, powerful hands raised him from the debris. At that moment, Ethan beheld an image that he hardly understood. A large lion, its mud-caked golden coat standing next to the group of Rangers. But even in its unkempt condition, Ethan recognized it at a glance. It was the identical lion that he had rescued from the precipice a few months earlier. The identical creature for which he had laid down his life. Surprisingly, it had now done the opposite. Despite all odds, the lion had located Ethan's ensnaring area and had started digging there. The other Rangers saw its peculiar behavior and decided to follow suit. They eventually found Ethan hiding behind the debris. Thanks to this lion, he survived. It was hard for Ethan to comprehend what had transpired. To think that an untamed creature, inherently a predator, might have seen him, remembered him, and even rescued him was beyond his wildest dreams. An overwhelming feeling of appreciation filled his heart. The lion met his gaze as he reclined, attempting to recover from the trauma. Something whispered but deeply understood was in its eyes, a link that went beyond species, a non-verbal acknowledgement, a profound sense of appreciation and, who knows, maybe the start of a remarkable bond between humans and animals. Something extraordinary happened in the days that followed. No longer did the elusive and timid lion in the park avoid humans. Ethan frequently encountered it on patrols, and each time they would share a respectful and understanding glance despite the animal's continued distance. As a poignant memory of the extraordinary occurrence that had transpired, it served as a poignant reminder that kindness and unity could manifest in the most surprising forms, even in the most untamed environments, where the rule of nature dictated survival. The incredible tale of a man and a lion who helped each other spread like wildfire around the park and beyond. It proved that empathy and understanding can bridge any gap, even between different kinds of animals. Hearing this story changed the way many people saw the connections between people and wild animals. Are you satisfied with this story? Is the idea of true friendship between animals and humans something you find appealing? Please inform us in the space provided below. Subscribing and liking the video would mean a lot if you enjoyed the narrative. Any barrier, including those between different species, can be overcome with compassion and goodwill. Your attentiveness is really appreciated. Coming up in the next video, man. Enjoy your day.